Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a twin soul channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video that contains messages that have started to come in about the pre-union window heading into 2022. That window opens in January. There have been some messages that have begun to get clear about what there is to do between now and then. This message was specifically prompted by a guest that has been on the channel named Marie. She received several messages at the start of the year for the collective, and she has a couple of others paired with the ones that I've been receiving. This information will assist you in understanding how to utilize the time between now and January. If you'd like more information or to work with Marie, you can find links below. Thanks so much for watching.
So the other piece, kind of the download that had come, also you had mentioned, is this surrender piece with the twin. And it was interesting. I went back and listened to our last conversation, remind myself what we were talking about. And it was there that really that space, the feminine holding space, right? And to get really big and really cleared out was really coming. And, I think a piece of getting cleared out, because after that, there was more old clearing I had to do personally, but I could also see like my spiritual work, my twin actually expanded in that time. So this process of expansion and clearing, and I'm kind of seeing it now, kind of the bigger you get, then the more spread out you are. Like that old stuff kind of comes more to the surface, like it is another time period for clearing. So I think that if old patterns are coming up again, rather than seeing it as a negative, that's just like a really, okay, this is the time to clear this out at a deeper level, like more is being revealed as we get bigger. And it makes a lot of sense. Like you were talking about this portal for union coming, that you can think of things in those polarities. So there's movement and there's counter movement. So if there's more union coming, then the divisive energy is going to rise. So people are finding a division in some way coming into their union. That would make sense as we get closer to potential greater union. And so this idea of surrendering into the twin came, what I was noticing is that we talked about last time, like acceptance, right? And maybe they're not wrong, and going into that more with the twin. And what it really came is then this, as we get closer to creating, we want to be really mindful of the energy we're creating from, and not just be in kind of that, okay, I accept it, right? Kind of that low mood of acceptance, but to actually cultivate joy that they're doing what they're doing, that they're transmuting what they're transmuting. And that can be hard, but I think we can attain moments of it if we kind of spin how we're looking at it. And if we're seeing either their choice, if people are in union, but maybe one partner is drawn to something else right now, like rather than seeing that as division, like really surrender into the joy of what they're being called to do. And if it's more, they're with another partner or something, there is coming in, to surrender in the joy that they're busy transmuting that. So that was a piece that came in.
Because it strikes me as this is one of the pre-2020 messages, 2022. Because as this period of time is unfolding and we get closer and closer to the union window, a couple of different things are happening. There are some twins that are really on track to, in the next 2 years, really come together. But on track isn't necessarily something that we 100% control, is what I'm starting to learn. Meaning choices made by the twins themselves. Sometimes the light workers are really stationed in their own locations with their own circles to do their own thing, for both for the greater good of who they're serving, but also because, and this just hit me in a conversation with another light worker, we were talking about it, that if two come together in a place of, meaning a location on planet Earth, in a location of heightened kind of dark energies, it's easier to take out it's like a kill two birds with one stone thing if they're in the same physical location. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're on different timelines in different locations, not just for the sake of what it does for the collective, but for our own safety and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And not just, physical safety, like, oh, they're going to put a bomb in San Francisco and all the San Franciscans are going to die. Not necessarily like that, but more so if the two are together and operating together in the world of form, and there's not like a third pole kind of between them, like the divine union energy hasn't anchored in terms of mission, or the divine union energy hasn't anchored in terms of, and mission doesn't have to be you guys working in the same business. It can simply be you guys really clear about what it is you're here to do on planet Earth. The two of you could be living together in a romantic third dimensional union. You focused on your part of it, them focused on their part of it, and there are no overlaps except for the living space. If one succumbs to dark energy in that space, it's much easier to take the other one out, and then the two of them can be kind of off the grid in terms of frequency, light frequency transmitted for months at a time if they spin out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the coming togethers, a lot, the we can't control all of it. It's just above our heads. Like, we are here to serve. As much as we wish we could just transmute enough energy and do enough light work to earn our way into a union, it doesn't work like that, because there's just something much bigger going on. So, it's important, as you were saying, Marie, if there is like a separative energy that starts to appear within the union, to not always translate it as a, what am I doing wrong? And as you say, to celebrate, like, okay, you're going to go transmute some more stuff with this person. Yes, please go do it. Wrap that cycle up. Go in there, learn that lesson, and deliver those light codes to your family line, by recognizing the necessity of having boundaries with people who, are narcissistic or who operate from enslavement templates and codes and paradigms. You learn boundaries by interacting with them. You learn self-sovereignty, but through those interactions, you go learn those things, because what that's going to do is it's going to create the transmutational energetic codes that everyone in your soul group and your genetic line needs. So sometimes it's just, your point around how we perceive what it is that's happening is so critical.
That resonates so much with what I was trying to say, honestly. Like, this realization, like, sometimes you have to be in different locations of the world, energetically. Yeah. And that for whatever partner would wish a different circumstance, I feel like it's often the feminine, right? But wouldn't have to be feminine energy.
Right.
That can lower the vibration with feelings of abandonment, or they don't love me, or it will never happen, or I'm not good enough. All the things you were just saying, right? And that pulls our vibration down. And this principle of the light existing in the darkness.
Yeah.
It's a Manichaean teaching, but you also see it right in the yin yang, right? That light in the darkness.
Yes.
And the black is the feminine, right? But we're meant to have that light, not to lose our light, even no matter what is happening, ideally, right? That's ideally. And so just kind of when the feelings come up, not to suppress them, as you've said. I mean, you do, like work through them, whatever that looks like.
Right.
Energy work, counseling, whatever, but trying to work through them in as healthy a way as we can is what we can do.
With as much compassion as possible.
With as much compassion as possible for ourselves and them. And to really try to, it's like trying to see clearly. So it's not to be like, oh, this could, is something dark going on? Like, are they not free? And so that's where I think your suggestion to people, to get energy work or spiritual release therapy or whatever, be sure you're both free, is really important. But if you feel like there's a block and your other is free and you're both free, then that doesn't have to mean something negative is happening.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I think that we can really easily get sucked down, especially now, because there's so much division energy in the world right now.
Yes.
I mean, I won't enumerate it all. It's all out there, right? These different realities that people are living in. And yet, like what I was really seeing is if that there's a third energy. It's not just this or that.
Right.
And for me, one of the things we can learn, like a lot of this stuff to me feels like distraction from really the high vibrational energy that's available to us now, whatever someone calls it. I know you did a series on Christ consciousness, and that calling it that resonates for me. But because of the harm that's happened to a lot of people, that doesn't resonate as a term. So, but you can feel it, right? There's also this amazing high vibrational energy available. And we can live in that, not separate from what the turmoil of the 3D, but integrating it through us into the turmoil, into our personal turmoil, into our twin relationship turmoil, if that is what is existing, or into our karmic relationship turmoil or our family turmoil. And instead of taking in and on, and I think you had someone else say this on your channel. Forgive me, I can't remember, but I really have seen this in my practice as a healer, that empaths often have the tendency to want to suck negative energy into themselves as if they can transform it. But to me, it just clogs up the system. I think that could have been how we used to do it, if you will. But in this time and place, because it's a time now for developing individuality and sovereignty, we can't do that for someone else.
Right.
They have to do it. They need that. That's their process. But what we can do is keep our systems clear, align with divine love and harmony, and radiate out through our heart chakra into the collective, that energy, into our unions, that energy. But that means we have to keep clearing lower vibration and authentically bringing in a higher vibration and doing it authentically. So that's why if like you're like joy, that's so, like I'm not like that's so devoid for me. It's not like you should force it, but I just almost want to say, see it as a possibility for yourself, because we're getting ready to have an opportunity to create. And it's really important what the energy is that we're creating from. Because if we're creating from fear, or we're creating from hate, or we're creating from hurt, that's not going to bring us what we want. But if we are creating from unconditional love, if we're creating from forgiveness, and this unconditional love starting with the love for ourselves, right? So this is not codependence at all. It's something else. And putting that out into the world, and putting that into our union, and putting that into our families, like that to me right now is the most important thing that we can do.
Yeah. Thank you. It's so beautifully articulated. I really appreciate that. And that piece about sometimes, there's a divine purpose to being separated. That wasn't necessarily from me. It was another light worker who, hopefully I'll be able to bring to the channel had kind of shared that sometimes it's like you need that opportunity. It would only serve the darkness more opportunity, especially if both people haven't fully anchored into higher vibrations. If one goes down, then the other goes down too. As long as that is the kind of way your connection is working, meaning, if they get, a hit of their own darkness or start working on transmuting something, or they're called to serve elsewhere, and it's like, separation for now. But what that does on your side is just take you down a dark place. It's like, okay, well, then there's no readiness there. There's no foundation there. If every time one needs to be elsewhere, B needs to be elsewhere, A falls apart. Like, if that's the way,
Yeah, exactly.
There's no real foundation there. And it makes you even more susceptible to, dark force energetic attack when, it's known that you two as a pair can be undermined in that way. That it's like, okay, well, all we want to attack the two of them. All we got to do is get under the skin of one and they'll both fall.
Yeah.
That it's a real signal that, okay, until they've both gotten to a more stabilized place, we need to just wait so that they can hold it down for themselves in the third dimension. They don't constantly need to be propped up by perfect circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there, that's a bit of some of the kind of way to think about, I love that you brought this forward in the way that you did, because it echoed perfectly what this other light worker was saying, who I'm going to bring on the channel, and then the little bit of intel that I had to kind of go with it. So it dovetails as kind of like some of the pre 2022 messages for twins that have been starting to come in, and the necessity of, like, here's how you prepare, like, you start the process. Hopefully we've all already been in this process of creating, that much greater sovereignty, really sealing out the darkness from our own energetic fields and the way we interact with people. And we've been in the process of transmuting our own, pain into compassion in in our twin circumstances, so that we are not, leaving the door wide open for the darkness to piggyback on our own heartbreak or heartache. Hopefully we've been able to find our way toward greater compassion for the circumstance, for them, for ourselves, etc. Because that's what creates the seal. That's what creates the lock. And I was getting this message earlier, and it's sort of a tandem and a sidebar, but certainly relevant to, I'm sure, more than just me, but certainly not everyone. Because of the way there have just been, heightened levels of attempt to kind of slow twins down, to feed off of their light, that kind of thing. It's just really important to maintain as much sovereignty as we can in every area of the physical domain as possible, the third dimension. So financially, getting to a place of real sovereignty, like being conscientious about the way money is coming and going. Sovereignty there, not having like codependency patterns playing out in the third dimension around the physical body. Having real sovereignty there. If there are patterns of addiction that are substance, food, or like alcohol related, really bringing those to a hard stop, especially at this time. My guides were really showing me that in the world of money, because there's so much of an attempt at this time to really slow light workers and twins down, where there is not sovereignty, the door is left open for more of those enslavement templates and energies to kick up and really create entrapment. And so it's just important to get into a habit of not overspending, overusing your credit, over overextending yourself financially at this time, because the dark forces can really use that for entrapment, more so now than ever. In the world of the body, it's very similar, where things that we are doing that create rips or tears or a diffuse auric field, with substances or food, again, it's like my guide said, it's like leaving the door open in a really bad neighborhood at night to your home. Like, just leave the front door, leave it wide open, not even unlocked, just open it up, and anything and anyone can kind of come into your house and do whatever they want. So it's just really important at this time to have sovereignty over the body, over the finances, and in the third dimension, sovereignty also in the world of communication, because communication is what links our third dimensional experiences, with what we're able to conjure and call forth out of the ethers and place it into the world. What we say, how we say it, whom we say it to, where we're interacting. It's just so important to speak positively about ourselves, about our light work, speak positively about our counterpart and our journey, speak positively about the future and the past. And this isn't to say you haven't had difficult experiences. That we all go through those things, but in the world of speech about it and communication about it, it's that old saying, that we were all taught in nursery school: if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Because once again, there's just higher amplitude of those kinds of energies that are like, yeah, let's feed on that darkness, let's expand it, let's multiply it, let's take her further, or take him further down that rabbit hole with those dark thoughts. And it can be kind of like dominoes, and that can take like days or weeks to come out of, once the door has been opened to it in the world of thought and communication. So sovereignty and communication, financial sovereignty, biological sovereignty in terms of what you're putting in your body with food, substances. Sovereignty was the other third dimensional realm, sovereignty in your home at this time. To the degree that you are able, it's also really important to be mindful about the energies that we let into our home. From out of town guests and visitors to neighbors, etc. Because piggybackers are real. Energetic piggybackers are a thing. And so, you may need to suddenly host family that you're not necessarily thrilled about vibrationally, but then start to do whatever you can to get the home into sovereignty, cleanse the energy after their departure, and not engage in, the ways in which you might get pulled into low vibrational thoughts or behaviors. Like, just, take time to disengage, take walks, go into your room, close the door, take saltwater baths, all of those things to keep your field as high vibrational as possible. It's just really important between now and the end of the year, because the more we fall in faith and compassion and love, the more we fall, the longer it takes to manifest that light work, manifest that union, manifest those connections that are going to accelerate your life forward. So that's the only other piece of this that it seemed important to mention. Sure, there are other, as you're listening, you may be getting your own hits around sovereignty in the third dimension, around things that really need to get cleaned up at this time. So that as this union window opens and we get closer and closer to it, you're just not accessible. No, that's not the word. Open to? No. You're not as porous, meaning, energy can just flow through and take you on any kind of ride that it wants to use you for. You are in a place of having established clarity in your frequency. This is what is permitted to come my way. That I'm not even visible to darker energies, because I'm so sealed, I'm so sovereign at that time. And so this pre-union kind of window, I'm so glad you brought this message forth today, Marie, because it brought out the best way for me to articulate some of these other things. And there will be some other conversations that are coming. I'm starting to put them together in the background with other light workers on sovereignty as we walk toward the union window and the 2022 stabilization window. So thanks, Marie. Is there anything else that you're seeing?
Yeah, there was this image I just wanted to bring of that talking of surrender into your twin, how it's shown as like a rubber band, stretching apart when we're both holding different, our light work should be this, no, it should be that. We should be together, no, we shouldn't, right? When we're in the polarity, the further we go away, the further the band is stretched. And so if we can relax into the surrender of what our twin needs to do while still holding that sovereignty of what we need to do, I think it relaxes the tension is what I was seeing. And so it's another way to bring harmony. And so your focus on sovereign of self, how it came to me is this union with self. And the other piece is with how you describe the intuitive twin and the transmuting twin. And what I am seeing, and I was wondering if this resonates with you, is that those energies are getting balanced more in me. Whereas as the intuitive twin, I now am feeling more called to transmute, which isn't taking in and on. In how it's shown to me, it's finding it in ourselves and transmuting that. So if, finding fear in ourselves, finding jealousy in ourselves, finding whatever it is in ourselves that's bothering us outside of us, and transmuting that, because it's often in us as well. So we can do it that way, or we can consciously step into a stream. That's why some, twins or light workers will have addictions or different things, because we have to kind of step into that stream if we want to transmute it. But the risk is getting lost in the stream we're trying to transmute. And what I was seeing is that for the transmuter twin, I feel like, and I think you have talked about this with masculine, that their intuition, for some of them, is expanding. They're seeing the connection more clearly. And that's that piece that will, how do I want to say this? It's like they'll begin to see things that they haven't allowed themselves to see before. And one of those, to me, is to really understand what they can transmute and what they cannot transmute, which is another person's stuff. But you can only know that if you experience it. So I do think that's one of the things that's happening that will facilitate union energy, as we both become more balanced in that. And the other piece, before, I'd really love to hear, since that's how you define the energies, if that resonates for you. But both, actually, my twin and I were called to put forgiveness into a past experience of harm. So a lot of twins have had dark, right? Try to separate us. You were talking about it happens in this lifetime. It's happened in the past. And, for us, when we met, part of what happened to me as the intuitive twin was I had a panorama of past life and past life trauma and curse work on us and just all these things. And it was coming into this life in such a way that I did share part of it with my twin because I needed help. And he was actually called, or a way of transmuting was to go back. He didn't get the details of the situation, but to put forgiveness in for himself and the other person. And then really recently following that, I was called to do that. So again, we can work with some really powerful light energies now. As that, and I think that 8-8 portal, it's like, yes, dark could come in, but light could come in, and also some dark could go out. So it's always like try to realize the the yin yang, or these two flows, and keep choosing the energy stream you want to be in, and keep choosing the energy stream you want to be in, and keep choosing the energy stream you want to be in, just over and over and over again. Because it's really, the dark wouldn't be so strong if there wasn't so much light. So it's, to me, it's an incredible time to heal things that we couldn't heal previously. So if any physical issue is actually related to dark things from other lifetimes, it's a great time to get that cleared. Even if you already did, clear it again, clear it again, clear it again, clear it again. Because it's not a one and done in my experience, especially of some really profound dark magic. Doesn't matter how long ago it happened, it can take multiple healings by multiple different people in my personal experience. So keep going. If, you know, that's what I would say to people. Just keep going, keep healing. Even if you feel you already did it, do it again.
That has been my experience as well. It takes multiple times. Trying to say, well, I already did it and nothing worked is the equivalent of saying I took a shower in 2016. Why am I still not clean?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep doing it. You got to stay clean. Showers are a good thing every day.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hitting that portal that opens back to that life. It's like a timing thing.
Yeah.
So you can clear aspects of it, but then it has to be like it's open again. It's like a door getting open again. And then you can clear more out and just, you know.
That is what I was shown as well. So I'm just going to add this in. For anyone who is listening to this who doesn't know, when Marie is talking about, I made a video a little while, but the title is just, "Is Your Divine Masculine Toxic? He Does Not Mean to Be." And it explained the unique role that each twin has, that one does a lot of transmutational work and the other does a lot of the internal knowing work of the path and holding the light between the two of them. And the distinction in the roles and why they are that way and all of that. Because, you know, the way my guides had really framed it for me is that the way divine masculine, divine feminine is a shorthand. It's not the full scope of what goes on in the polaric dynamics between twins. And it can be, it can be an extraordinarily limiting concept because of the way in the earth realms we understand gender to be so fixed by body type upon incarnation. And so when you take it out of gendered terms and you place it into, oh, there's just two different types of work to be done here, you can start to understand the uniqueness of each twin in the bond, and you better understand what's going on with more light and more compassion, and, you know, less of the existing pain paradigms around the breakdowns between men and women as we understand them in the earth realms. That there's, once you take them out of that language and you put new language to it, it expands the consciousness around your capacity to see what's actually happening. So you can take a look at that video. I'll link it below this, but I also want to say that something that you had shared, you know, the intuiting twin can start to do transmutational work. This is a thing that does happen as the twins get closer and closer toward manifesting connection in the third dimension. There can be a level of transmutation that the intuiting twin takes on, and a level of intuiting that the transmuting twin takes on. It's the equivalent of, again, in shorthand, balancing your masculine and feminine energies. You get to experience the other side of it as the two move into a singular energetic field. So, yeah. Is there anything else, Marie, that came through that's really important for people to know at this time?
Just looking at the things I jotted down, but I think that those just felt important over the rest of 2021 to, you know, if they resonate for people to work with or to help shift. And so that makes sense that you're feeling like a lot of these things will come in, and probably more to your pre-2022. So that's we can make the most of this preparation time for whatever is to manifest in our individual unions. And also, I think someone said, I think this is important to remember, it might have been Charlotte, you know, that that we can do a lot even if we're not in physical union. So to remember that.
Totally. There's so much that can be done. So much good, so much work, so much light that can be shared, but it all really does start with that frequency of sovereignty and really kind of getting to a place where we are not open to being manipulated by darker energies. And when our own, you know, kind of pain paradigms and thoughts and stuff come up, that we have a way to transmute them instead of, you know, just being like, you know, the dark energy rolls up in a car with some candy, like, hey kid, want to get in? Like, no, actually I don't. Like, you don't have to get in the car with every single dark emotion that shows up. Like, you can ignore a lot of them and they will go away.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, it's important to remember that, you know, emotions come up, yes, but they're opportunities for the transmutation and to really expand our consciousness, as opposed to an invitation to get on, you know, an invitation to go to the circus with a stranger. So,
yep.
Okay, love it. Anything else in your notes that we should be being aware of?
Oh, you know, now I think that was really the main points that were coming in that felt important to offer, and just encouragement if it's hard for people out there. Yeah, keep going. Don't give up on your healing. Okay. Don't give up on your unions. Don't give up on what your mission. Just keep getting what you need to stay sovereign, and to clear what you need to clear within you, because that's all you can do. You can't clear it in them. And one thing I'll say from this came in. Okay, so one thing to say, just as my experience as a healer, because I work with a modality that brings things to consciousness. And what I've seen time and time again is what I can do is show this consciousness, because it's often subconscious that's causing either emotional pain, physical pain. And when the clients hear that and they take it up and work with it, they get better. And when they don't, I can facilitate a shift, but they'll just keep reforming it, because that's forming from that consciousness. They'll just move around. And so this really important time to be totally open to, I don't know what I say, like the darkness within, what we may be resistant to find in ourselves, and break through the resistance, find it and transform it. It's such a healing thing and such a gift you give to yourself. And you can't transform what's in your twin. You can only find it and transform it in yourself.
Love that.
And that helps everybody.
Love that. Love that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kay.
Yeah. Joy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And of course, it's like when a lot of people are getting tired, like, no, now we gotta
step it up.
We gotta rock and roll now.
Yeah.
Now, it's got to go one way or the other. That was the other thing. It doesn't feel like just in September, like, to just totally surrender, because the energy is like, everything's still in flux. So try not to grip anything of a lower vibration, which I think is what you were saying. Mm-hmm. Don't just let it spin. Like, don't try to stick your hand in the pot. You've said this before, you know, and keep trusting, just working towards the higher outcome, because it's still possible. It's not been fixed.
That's right.
you know, so.
Yeah, there is a lot in flux at this time, so much in flux that hasn't been written, it hasn't been decided. And because the human brain really does have a orientation to definitives. It wants a yes or it wants a no, but it really doesn't like and doesn't appreciate, well, we'll see. Well, I don't know. Well, we're not there yet. There can be a real tendency, unfortunately, to, in order to create the certainty that the brain finds its comfort zone to be, there can be a deep tendency to like, well, since the path of light and the path that I want isn't available, I'll just grip onto this darkness so that at least I know for sure that it's destined we'll never be together, and it's destined my business will fail, and it's destined and it's destined I'll never be able to get out of this financial hole. This is just who I am and where it's at and what it is. And there's a real tendency for the mind to want to lock on to a certainty of, even if it's a negative one, then to hang out in the space of it's still unwritten and I can influence it, but I have to be willing to be okay with not knowing today.
Yeah, and maybe that's that Virgo, that mutable earth energy, right? So earth is the 3D, and right now it's all mutable.
Hanging out in Virgo.
Hanging out in Virgo. And that mutability. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really, so true. So true. And I think there's so much potential for people. So hopefully they can not lock into the negative.
Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing with those who might need these messages. You can find links below to connect with Marie. There is another light worker that I mentioned. Her name is Dawn, and she does provide readings for light workers and twins and business coaching. She's the one that the message came from about there sometimes really being a situation of necessity for safety reasons that counterparts may actually be apart. You can find links to contact Dawn and reach out for counsel below. Take great care and bye for now.